Hello, it is World Wide Web Wednesday, 10/4, good buddy. October 4th, 2023, Steve Sipress here. And news came out just this afternoon that the platform Patreon has come out with all kinds of big changes, pretty much reinventing itself, including useless, meaningless things that many small business owners make the mistake that it matters of they're changing their logo. But I digress. Patreon is a site that likely you have never heard of as a business owner, and likely almost nobody who is could be a patron of the site. See what I did there? Any fans or any consumers or anybody has ever heard of this thing, and yet back in April of 2021, Patreon was valued at $4 billion with a B. So typical of these tech companies that get all the buzz and things start happening. They got over $400 million of investor money at a valuation of about $4 billion. And then about a year and a half later, now a year ago, last October, got another round of investments, and this time at a valuation of only $1.5 billion, 70% loss in valuation in a year and a half, and that was a year ago. I'm guessing they didn't do this big reinvention today because things are going fantastically well, and they're up to 2, 3, 4, 5 billion. I think this site is about to bite the dust, but that's just my opinion. Check it out if you want. Maybe you're already there. This site is it's where creatives, artists, musicians. I have a client who's one of the country's top comedians. He was on there, which probably means even though he's not doing anything with it anymore, likely his account is still on there. So these are for people that have fans, that have a following, can get paid, can get subscribers, paying money to follow them, and then Patreon takes out a percentage of that subscription fee. So give an example. Now, of course, not only is the valuation way down, but you might have heard, or you probably didn't, but over the summer, the artists, the creatives on Patreon were not getting paid their money that it showed they were supposed to be making on a monthly basis, and they couldn't get their money out. And so all kinds of problems for the site, but all kinds of new changes, including the introduction of a free level of subscription. So now on top of I think you can have up to 3 different tiers of paid subscription. Now for the first time you can have a free level to get people in the door that way and get them to listen to your music or your comedy or your podcast or your spoken word or whatever it is you're putting out there, and then people can step up and subscribe to higher levels. So, of course, in reality that sounds like a good move and a smart addition and all that. Again, I just think it's climbing the ladder of Patreon, but the ladder of Patreon is leaning on a building that is collapsing, and so I don't recommend to climb that ladder. And I noticed that they say the site is not just for artists and whatever, but it's even good for local businesses. So I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I will tell you that they make it real clear that they are not going to help you find new fans. So this is really only, and always has been only, for people that already have a following. So you have a following on your YouTube channel or your TikTok or your Twitter or X now or Facebook, whatever it is, Instagram, and you invite them, or just an email list, or you're on stage somewhere and you invite them to go to Patreon, where supposedly the idea was that these artists can create really more advanced, more compelling, more super duper content. So in addition to their free YouTube channel, they could say, now if you really want my best stuff, go to Patreon and pay me X a month, and you can get my best stuff there. And the reason Patreon tells you right out you're going to need a following already is they have no ads, which is great, but they also have no algorithm. So there is nothing coming up when you log into to Patreon that says, we suggest this might be something you like based on your past, the ones you're subscribing to or who you like. Nope. You have to search for a creative, for an artist, for a local business, for whatever. You have to know who they are pretty much, and you have to find them. But then the good news is, as they say, there's nothing in between you and your fans. There are no ads. There's no algorithm that's driving people to other similar creatives or artists or whatever. So that's good in theory. The thing is, as I said, it's only for people that already have a sizable following to make any decent money. So I'll give you an example when it said, hey, local business. And I'm like, come on now. Local businesses, I can't imagine a local business is wasting any time putting out content to get people to subscribe to. So I did a search for plumber, and I found not a single plumber. I found a few creatives with the last name plumber, usually spelled differently than the word plumber, like Plummer, but like didn't find a plumber. Put a second search in for lawyer. And that's when I stopped, because I came across something interesting to me, someone who calls himself the fantasy football lawyer. Now, for people who don't know, way back, about 40 years ago, I built from scratch what became the largest fantasy sports game company in the world. So I had the largest fantasy football game, fantasy baseball, basketball, hockey, golf, you name it. I had the largest fantasy sports game company in the world till I screwed it up. So I wanted to check out the fantasy football lawyer. What's all of that about? Would that be for people like me that run fantasy? I did run a fantasy football business, and I got to know what the law is or legal issues, or what could he have, 2 subscribers? There's not a lot of those. So I checked it out, and check this out. Guy puts himself out as a 22-year experienced criminal attorney, and he will keep you all up to date for a mere $3 a month. He'll keep you up to date on all the legal and criminal proceedings going on in the NFL that might affect players that you either want to trade for or sign on your team or draft them or whatever. He's like, hey, I correctly predicted that this guy would not have criminal charges filed in that case. And, has a police blotter to tell you what's going on with all the legal proceedings and criminal proceedings. I mean, the NFL is certainly the place to go for that. That is just filled with criminals. But anyway, I'm like, give me a break. Is this really something that makes sense to do? And it tells you right there on his Patreon page that he has 149 subscribers, paying him $3 a month, so that he's grossing $349.3 a month. And out of that, Patreon takes a percentage. So this guy has been an attorney for 22 years, and he's bringing in less than $300 a month with this thing. If that doesn't define a labor of love, that he's just doing it because he loves it, or maybe he just started it and he thinks he's going to build it up. 72 posts it said he had. So I don't know if he does 3 or 4 a week. I guess that might be a couple of seasons or whatever. But anyway, you see what a kind of silly thing this Patreon is. So here's the thing. I don't suggest, as a typical business owner, that you pay any attention to Patreon, no matter what changes they've made and what additions and how much better it is now and easier and all that, because I think the thing's going under. You heard it here first, or you probably didn't. You probably heard it all over the place, but I just believe that thing's going under. So my suggestion is, you see the news, Patreon reinvents itself and makes it easier to use and easier for the creatives and all kinds of new things. My advice, pay no attention to it, especially if you don't already have a huge following that you can bring over there, like Taylor Swift, I'm sure, of course, because anything Taylor Swift does can make money. So I was going to say, I'm sure she can make money. No kidding. Taylor Swift can wake up and breathe and make money. So other than that, you don't have a big rabid following of fans, I suggest out on Patreon, even though they came out today with some reinvention and some big changes. And that's my opinion, and that's the news here on World Wide Web Wednesday, 10/4, October 4th, 2023. Thanks for everybody being here live, watching on the replay, and I will catch you back here again tomorrow on Throwback Thursday. Until then, over and out. Bye-bye.